So I think until there's some ban on unlimited hand passing, we won't see Gaelic football at the level that he's talking about.
So given what we know about...
scored one of the greatest goals ever scored. Hand passing up the field. There's nothing wrong with hand passing. It was done in the right context.
Given what we do know about the two teams and how they're set up, you've been contrasting the tactical approach that they will take.
Yeah, the nub of this game is the tactical sort of situation.
Yeah.
Mayo play a high pressure game. They flood into your half-back line. The midfielders push up. Any sweepers are marked. They push up high and they look for turnovers. They do it relentlessly. It's very like Cross-McGlennon club football. They've scored 13 goals in 4 games. 10 of those have come from enforced turnovers, where they've broken you down in possession and counter-attacked into space and scored goals. So they're in your face constantly. They won't allow Tyrone to take short kickouts, etc., etc. Tyrone play with a 6-man half-back line. Their 3 half-forwards go into the half-back line, which makes them very formidable defensively. But the problem with that today is that Mayo will push up on them and hem them in. The way to break out from that is to kick the ball, but you need outlet players in the half-forward line, and you need to move the ball in quickly into Tyrone's full forwards. Donegal found how difficult that was against Mayo, as has everyone this year.
Memories. Philip, you're very welcome. Injury finally caught up on you this week and you had to retire even from club football.
Yeah, I had to make the call there at the start of the week. I finished playing with the county and hoped to give 2 or 3 good years to the club, but unfortunately I struggled last year with injury and I battled away with all this year. But sometimes you have to make a call for your own future health, and I suppose when I look back at my career, I'm happy enough with what I've achieved, so maybe made the call a wee bit easier.
It's tough on Mayo to lose you. What injury was it? Several injuries or one injury?
Yeah, with trouble with hips and grinds, and the hip now still probably needed repaired, of a bit of arthritis in my hip as well. So I look about getting something fixed maybe before Christmas time, get an operation, and hopefully that'll leave me pain-free, hopefully for a while anyway. And
we discovered a minute before going on air an extraordinary thing about Philip. Your record of consecutive games in the championship.
62 was a pretty good record. Just missed that first one when I never got picked for the Armagh match in 2002, which still rankles, but should have been 63. The one you remember.
Yeah. And then from 2002 until
2011, whole way through. So.
Never missed one championship match.
Never missed one. Good work from the physios to keep me fit for so long. So.
And has anyone else beaten that record?
Johnny Doyle beat me this year, so I think Johnny's still going strong. He might go for another year yet, so he could.
Johnny Doyle, huh? Well, mind you, he's probably swapped it for your All-Irelands and All-Stars, but he's another great one. All right, well, we'll chat with our panel in detail presently, but first, let's get to the action. Another huge crowd in Croke Park, over 65,000, and among them to watch Mayo and Tyrone do battle were Martin Carney and Marty Morrissey.
The biggest talking point about this Mayo team is the selection of regular defender Keith Higgins on the 40. With his transfer to the attack, Chris Barrett gets the call to action at left corner back. The O'Shea brothers, Aidan and Shamey, are a strong, formidable centre-field combination, while the attack has quite simply been awesome, with Cillian O'Connor in particular outstanding by scoring 6 goals and 7 points in championship football. It's Mickey Hart's 200th competitive match in charge of Tyrone, and what a great job he's done over the last 11 years. Sean Kavanagh has been one of his greatest stars, and alongside his brother Colm in midfield, could have a major impact on the result of this match. Ryan McKenna moves to corner back, with Kieran McGinley coming into the half-back line, with Peter Hart and Conor Gormley. Conor McAliskey replaces the suspended Martin Penrose at top of the left. Will James Horan and Mayo reach the All-Ireland final for the 2nd year in a row, or will it be Tyrone for the first time since 2008? Maurice Deegan is the man in charge. Mayo won the toss. Let's see who will win this first of the All-Ireland semi-finals. Good play by Tom Caniff. Quick layoff, good hands by Keith Higgins. Look at the running of Donald Vaughan, the centre half back. He's unmarked, unchecked. Keith Higgins goes for the score, and it comes back off the post. Cathal McCarran from Dromore, St. Dimnas, in his 14th championship match this afternoon. Gets it down for his Colm Kavanagh. Getting away from Shamey O'Shea. Quick hands again for his Kieran McGinley. Sean Kavanagh taking the challenge to Mayo, then moves from first into third gear. Lays it off first Peter Hart. Ball inside is a good one. There was a chance of a quick layoff for Joe McMahon. Darren McCurry did well, and again the ball comes back off the post for the 2nd time. Stephen O'Neill, was he fouled by Colm Boyle? Lays it back for his Darren McCurry. It's a blistering start to this All-Ireland football semi-final. Conor Clark, he's already scored 3 points in the championship, right underneath it. Good hands by Robbie Hennelly. And a really good save by the keeper. That'll give his confidence a world of good. Look at the backtracking by Kieran McGinley. Did well to dispossess Kevin McLaughlin. McGinley going forward past the 13. Nobody coming in to challenge him. And he blazes it over the crossbar.
That's fabulous football from both sides, actually, for the first 2 minutes, non-stop. And Kieran McGinley, that time, blistering place, left Kevin McLaughlin in his wake. Good opening score for Tyrone.
Chasing after this, Keith Higgins. Great hurler, great football. Can play anywhere. Gives it into the centre, Alan Dillon, knocked away. Conor Clark. Was Alan Dillon fouled? Joe McMahon is protesting. I didn't think so. What did you
didn't think so at all. I thought it was a 50-50 ball, indeed a badly directed pass, it must be said. You know, left Alan Dillon with a lot to do. Both of them attacked it fairly, and I thought it was a lucky enough free for Mayo.
Free going to be taken by Cillian O'Connor. First free for the Connacht champions. He's dropping a little bit short, and it's just gone over the crossbar. Pascal McConnell got his fingertips to it.
Well, they all count, Marty, it must be said. It seemed to be dropping short or right, but it's gone over the bar.
Colm Kavanagh. Peter Hart. We saw him play centre forward against Kildare, back in more familiar territory at centre back, but he's in the centre forward position now. Coming across was Tom Caniff. Fair shoulder, but Peter Hart has gone down injured. Maurice Deacon didn't blow the whistle, but it doesn't matter a hoot because Tyrone have got the point. Off the boot of Stephen O'Neill.
That's a great point from Stephen O'Neill. That time Peter Hart took an awful rattle from Tom Caniff, both of them going hard for the ball. Stephen O'Neill actually is playing out in the half-forward line. Colin Boyle is marking him, took that point very well.
This is the hit from Tom Caniff on Peter Hart.
Yeah, that was one hell of a wrecking ball belt. Watch it again. Caniff comes in hard, 50-50 ball. Bravery from both players. Peter Hart came out the wrong side of it. May have trouble with his ribs after that.
And if he has to go, it's a severe blow to Tyrone, because now they have to reorganise. All the well-laid plans after 5 minutes of play has to be reorganised and redesigned.
Yes, and Tom Caniff had to come hard for that ball. Peter Hart was coming hard for it. It was a 50-50 ball. They both collided, and as you said, Marty, he is a huge cog in the Tyrone machine. He'll be a massive loss.
Dillon sends it down the middle. Captain Andy Moore. Again to Donald Vaughan, who continues to run off the ball every opportunity. Pass outside first, Cillian O'Connor just carried a little bit too much pace. Joe McMahon is back there. He's gone out over the end line. Umpire signals wide. Referee has blown his whistle, I believe, and he's indicating there was a push on the back on Cillian O'Connor. But did the ball go out first, I wonder? Let's have a look here, Martin.
I don't think so. Joe McMahon slapping away at him, and he did actually take the ball out. He was double teamed, it must be said, but that's a soft enough free in again, I think.
Kevin McLaughlin has scored 9 points in this journey through the championship. It's his first in this All-Ireland semi-final. Sides level in Croke Park for the second time. 33-year-old Pascal McConnell from Newtown Stewart. Getting it far as Conor Gormley. Cillian O'Connor seemed to pick up a knock, and he seems to be holding his shoulder, which caused problems earlier in the season. Ball inside, good ball far as Conor McAliskey. Nice turn, really nice score. Good play by Tyrone. They're just not here for the fun or to make up the numbers, Martin Carney, are they?
That's very, very simple in what they have done, and this is a major blow to Mayo. Cillian O'Connor with that kick out has got a belt by the looks of it in his shoulder. A shoulder he's dislocated a couple of times already this year. So just as Peter Hart has had a problem, it looks as Cillian O'Connor's day is finished, which is bad, bad news.
And if he's gone, and remember Peter Hart is gone, that's 2 major injuries. So in some ways they balance each other out.
Yes, and to two very prominent players, it must be said.
Frontal charge by Lee Keegan on Conor Clark, who's coming out around the middle of the field. And it's interesting that Clark is now operating in that area, and it looks like Conor Gormley has gone back into his more traditional role in the full back line. Meanwhile, the free is taken. Again, it's Conor McAliskey. Will it curl? Will it what? Brilliant point by Conor McAliskey. 2 fantastic points from play, and Mickey Hart is pleased.
Why wouldn't he be pleased? Spectacular response from McAliskey, but it's a great start, it must be said, for Tyrone.
Sean Kavanagh, good hands, laying it off as Mark Donnelly. Look at the running off the ball by Conor Clark. willing to express himself with the shackles taken off him from full-back to midfield. Mark Donnelly. Lovely little skill by Darren McCurry. Can he finish? Fantastic. Not just the finish, but just watch the ball skills here. This is learned when you're 10, 11 and 12 years of age. Just the hop of the ball, made the space and kicked beautifully. This is a character test for the Connacht champions. They have glided their way through Connacht, through the quarter-finals, mesmerising opposition. But this is a test. Alan Freeman, Andy Moore outside, still Alan Freeman. Oh, look at this! But the referee had blown his whistle. And while Alan Freeman may celebrate, he now looks at the referee. And to be honest, I did hear the whistle. But Maurice Deegan had blown the whistle for a foul. And the Mayo fans will be considerably disgruntled.
Oh, why wouldn't it be? That time, wonderful play by Freeman. Managed to keep the ball in play. Took on his defender. I heard the whistle also, it must be said. In this case here, got the ball in behind the wing-back Conor Gormley. I think maybe in that case... No, just I think he blew Conor Gormley, which was for an innocuous free. I don't know what, you know, it was so harmless.
Because there was no subsequent foul on Alan Freeman there.
No, it didn't. So that's a bad call.
And Kevin McLaughlin subsequently has hit that free, a simple tap over on any other day of the week. He's kicked it wide.
Oh, that's a double whammy. That's a dreadful blow to Mayo. That should have been an equalising goal, it must be said. I cannot see why that free was given. And although I did hear a whistle, it must be said. The subsequent free, very, very, very bad miss.
Tyrone are introducing Ronan O'Neill, and he's coming on for Stephen O'Neill. Sean Cavan. Jinks to the right. Easy ball for Dirk African. Aidan O'Shea. Given away to Dermot Carlin. Quick hands again. Far as Mark Donnelly taking on the Mayo defence. Donnelly sneaks it back outside for his Ronan O'Neill, and that is just over the crossbar. Ronan O'Neill from Omagh, a man in form I've heard in terms of training, and he's reflecting that with this difficult enough angle, but a very good score.
Overall, Tyrone will be delighted with the first half. I mean, leading 7 points to 3, not far from half-time. They've played most of the football. Mayo haven't got into this game at all yet.
Colin Boyle. Jamie O'Shea. Chris Barrett. Going forward. Just behind him is Keith Higgins. What about this? By a run from Chris Barrett, the left corner back. And that is over the bar. It's that sort of leadership, that sort of inspiration that Mayo badly need. And here's an interesting statistic. That is Mayo's first point from play, and it took 32 minutes. Donald Vaughan gathers and is fouled. Quick ball in for Zinda Varley. Going forward is Lee Keegan. This is Keegan on the run, on the turn and over the bar. Mayo coming good just before the break. It's 2 points between the teams. 7 points to 5. Aidan O'Shea, Paris Keith Higgins. Good running by Tom Kniff. Can he do what Chris Barrett did a moment ago and score a point? And once again, it is Chris Barrett. Oh my word. What about this for a Belmullet dynamo? He really is superb going forward. No wonder James Horn has pushed Keith Higgins into the attack and given this man his place at left corner back.
At the halfway point in the first of this year's All-Ireland football semi-finals, Tyrone leading Mayo by a single point, 7 points to 6. And Colin O'Rourke, the weird thing about this game is this has been a weird first half for both teams. Tyrone have played all the football. Mayo haven't settled. They've not been allowed to play the kind of football that has devastated teams so far this summer. And there's only a point in it.
Yeah, well, the game has been played very much on Tyrone terms. Absolutely. And they set out their stall. And Mayo haven't responded tactically on the pitch to the way Tyrone have drawn themselves up, which shouldn't be anything new. Joe McMahon playing back as a sweeper. I'm surprised that Keith Higgins has gone back more or less into the Mayo defence. They should push up on the Tyrone kick out, force them to kick long. But Mayo have played in fits and starts, and they've made a huge amount of mistakes, and they're in sort of unknown territory because they haven't been in a tight game. I still think they will win the game because I think Stephen O'Neill and Peter Hart are huge losses. Of course, Cillian O'Connor has gone off as well. But again, the half has been dominated by bad referee indecision, which, it's an intriguing battle. It's not a great game of football, but if Mayo can cut down on their mistakes, they could still win it.
We'll have a look at what Colm is alluding to in a moment. But just before that, Joe, I want to look at this. Mayo are playing this quick ball as they do. They defend, they try and break quickly, playing the ball, but they're being snuffed down by Tyrone.
Mayo have abandoned their strategy up until now. Normally they push up, they don't play a sweeper themselves, and they pick up all the half forwards who go back into the Tyrone defence. They did that against Donegal. Today, they're allowing Tyrone to play with the sweeper. They're playing with the sweeper themselves. God only knows why they've decided to do it today. And it means that, one, Tyrone have an extra man every time to come out of their defence. They've kicked 5 short kickouts, so they're not kicking the ball long, which would be right up Mayo's street. And also it means that Mayo's forwards are totally outnumbered in there. So I have no idea why Mayo are not pushing up. It has worked for them all year. The basis of their strategy to date has been to turn over ball in that area and attack and keep you hemmed in. And now they're not doing it. Apart from anything else, their sweeper's totally ineffective. He's not doing his job properly, and he's hardly being used. Tyrone are the most patient team in the country. You'll see there, they will take that ball out of their defence, they'll find the overlapping man. The game, as Colm says, has been played entirely in their terms, and I'll tell you, this is Tyrone territory. As things stand, Tyrone have the balance of this. And I mean, we talked about Tyrone getting to 60 minutes. Well, the way things are at the moment, I have every expectation that Tyrone will get to 60 minutes there or thereabouts. And I mean, after that, on the balance of the game here, you'd have to say that Tyrone are in the driving seat.
Well, Colm thinks it's the other way around, or that the pendulum is swinging.
Not so far.
Obviously, we'll have to wait and see how it pans out. Pat, I want to have a look at this disallowed goal. This is the big talking point of the first half. Now, just before I get your thoughts on this, we'll just run the clip because I'm keen to hear when the whistle actually blew in this incident.
It'll something be a talking point.
Oh, it's a talking point already.
Oh, he did blow it just there.
He did blow it, yeah.
Well, nobody heard it.
He did blow it. I mean, we'll credit Maurice Deegan in the sense he blew it. So, but what do I see? I see 2 problems with this. One, I can't honestly see a foul in the first place.
Okay.
But if you can remember, Pat McEnany's instruction to the referees all year long is he talks about the slow whistle. Allow the game to develop another couple of seconds and see what happens. That was A, it wasn't a foul. B, he should have allowed play go on. It should have been a Mayo goal for Alan Freeman, and that's a desperate risk. But can I just talk about the game? Look, it's very like last Sunday's hurling game in the sense that Limerick came in as favourites, Clare as underdogs. Today, Mayo hot favourites, Tyrone as underdogs. And the occasion seems to have got to Mayo because they look undercooked for a start because they've had no intense game to start. Their game plan now has to change because they had to chase a game. But what I can't understand, Michael, and this is the key thing, Mayo have now brought to this table today fear. They've suddenly introduced a sweeper. They've never used it all along. They're not driving forward from the half-back line, which they've been doing all along. Their full forward line are isolated. There's no one up in support. They're not bringing the intensity and the work rate and the passion to the table that maybe they brought earlier on, but that's required for All-Ireland success. It's not there today so far.
Well,
time for us to pause again for a little while here with Croke.
Seamie O'Shea getting by Sean Kavanagh, at least temporarily. Colm Boyle, hefty challenge by Sean Kavanagh, but it ends up with Seamie O'Shea going through, chasing Conor McAleski. Still Seamie O'Shea gives it for his Andy Moore. Lee Keegan is available to his right. He uses Enda Varley instead. Cutting inside, well capable of scoring from here, and that's exactly what he's done. If the doctor ordered a quick point from play from a Mayo forward at half-time, well then the patient has duly delivered. Kevin McLaughlin, here's the ball for Enda Varley, inside is Colm Boyle. But survives, he's on the 20, make it a 13. Here comes the shot as he fouled inside the large rectangle. It's a penalty. A penalty for Mayo. Colm Boyle took on the Tyrone defence, running at the opposing defence, and he was pulled down by Dermot Carlin here. Was it outside the large rectangle?
It was just on the margin of it. It was very, very marginal, it must be said. I just think he's on the 13-metre line, I think, as it happens.
A turning point in the All-Ireland football semi-final between Mayo and Tyrone. Alan Freeman taking on Pascal McConnell. Here's Freeman. It's in the back of the net. It hits the back stanchion, no question. His first goal in the first half was disallowed. His second hit the back stanchion, the back of the net, and Mayo are in front.
That's a textbook penalty. In fairness to Pascal McConnell, he guessed right, might have even got a hand to it, but the pace of the ball, the direction of it, fair play to young Freeman, and mixed up, as you said, Marty, for the perfectly legitimate goal that was disallowed him in the first half.
Here's the man who created the penalty, Colin Boyle, laying it off by Seamus O'Shea. Backtracking is Kieran McGinley. Aidan O'Shea was outstanding against Donegal. The brother is doing well in this All-Ireland semi-final. Kevin McLaughlin flicking it over for us, Alan Dillon, having a goal from there, and that is a thing of beauty. Alan Dillon with his first point in this match. He got a little bit of space here, and he took his chance.
Yes, you can sense the confidence rising in Mayo. That time Alan Dillon, beautifully flighted point. You know, that's just indicative of the way they have come out in the second half. A transformed team with whatever was said to them at half-time.
It's Mark Donnelly now, cutting through the centre. To his right is Darren McCurry. This is McCurry. What are Tyrone going to do here? There's a chance, and it's saved somehow by Robbie Henley. Comes back out for his Darren McCurry, and that's over the bar. Tyrone's Colm Kavanagh is protesting to the referee. Let's look at the replay here. There's anxious moments in Mayo as the foot block came across.
Just watch it again. No, it hit his leg actually, rather than the foot, and consequently it was right to let the play go on.
Sean Kavanagh knocks it down, only for Lee Keegan to gather. Being chased by Ronan O'Neill. Gets the call from Alan Dillon. Nice ball inside for his Alan Freeman. Nice turn. Oh, what about the finish? Is that going over the bar? Now that is class. Wonderful football. Brilliant individual skill by Alan Freeman, and superbly worked in terms of a team score. Conor Gormley bursting his way out under pressure. Still available. Gormley gets the toe to it. Comes for Seamus O'Shea. Paul McCarran is still down injured. Physio and medical team are on the pitch off camera. Michael Conroy gives it to Lee Keegan, and Keegan sends it over the bar for his second point of the game. Good play, Mayo. They are looking good for a date with Croke Park in either Kerry or Dublin on the 22nd of September. Pascal McConnell with the kick out. It's a poor one. Comes straight to Aidan O'Shea. We thought about giving it back to McConnell with a long testing ball. Gives it short instead. Here's an opportunity. Here's a point. Point scorer's name, Cathal Carolan from Castlefina. And for the first time, Mayo people are beginning to relax and enjoy the proceedings. Michael Conroy testing out Ryan McKenna. Still Conroy looking for a little bit of help. This is Aidan O'Shea bearing down on goal. Uses the fisted pass, and you can book your tickets if you can get them, Mayo people, because you are coming back to Croke Park. Watch out, Kerry. Watch out, Dublin. Mayo have found their formula. They have found their rhythm, led by a contender for Footballer of the Year 2013, Aidan O'Shea. Ronan McNabb into the centre to Mark Donnelly. Chance here, perhaps, for Conor Clark. Looking around, but there's nobody immediately available. Front of the Cusack stand. It's a chance here. It's sent over the bar eventually. Good work by Tyrone. Good work by Coyle Coney.
Very patient work by Tyrone, it must be said, but also great defensive work from Mayo. Good score from Coney.
Keith Higgins. Donald Vaughan, and look at Higgins go. Wanted Donald Vaughan to make a more incisive run, but Vaughan going forward, lays it back for his Alan Dillon. Will he go for goal? He'll take his point. Alan Dillon with his second point semi-final, but it could have so easily been a green flag rather than a white one.
They're absolutely destroying Tyrone at the moment. Dylan, that time I think it was in two minds whether to go for a goal or a point. Did the sensible thing, put another point up on it, good score.
Kieran McGinley giving it into the centre. Full back is Conor Clark, at least that's the jersey number. Nice little push by Kyle Coney, a little nudge. As Tyrone regain the possession. Kyle Coney is available inside. Coming through, there's a chance for Sean Kavanagh. Surviving the challenges and lashing that over the crossbar. Wonderful, gifted footballer with tremendous heart, sheer physique and indeed passion for victory. One last attack, perhaps, for Tyrone. Mark Donnelly giving it everything. Long ball, but waiting patiently for it is Keith Higgins. Coming away with it, started on the 40, now playing at left corner back. The full-time whistle blows. Mayo are in the All-Ireland football final on September 22nd. And Kerryman from Castle Island congratulates James Horn on a wonderful achievement. From Belmullet to Shrew, from Achill to Balhadereen. Can you hear them cheer? Can you hear the voices as Mayo come back on a mission where they failed last year? They will be so determined to make sure that Sam Maguire goes west to those villages and towns for the first time since 1951. Full-time score, Mayo 116, Tyrone 13 points.
Now let's digest all of that drama with our panel, Kieran Whelan, Kevin McStay, and our special guest, Tyrone's outstanding wing back for so many years, Philip Jordan. Kieran, I'll go to you first as the neutral man. It's a great day for Mayo. How good a game was it in your opinion?
Yeah, I enjoyed it, Des. I think it was a good game. I think you've got to give credit to both teams. The level of intensity was certainly up a few notches to other games we've seen. Mayo, I think, will come out of it tonight in a perfect position. They met a well-organised Tyrone machine today that asked a lot of questions of them, rattled them in the first 10 or 15 minutes. In the past, Mayo teams may have folded and come under pressure. They dealt with it. They grew into the game as it went through the first half. Their shot options were poor in the second quarter, but they got into it just before half-time at a crucial time. And then they came out in the second half, and once they got a bit of momentum, that belief flowed back that we'd seen in the other games, and their power, their pace, their strength. They ran at the Tyrone defence. Tyrone struggled when Stephen O'Neill went and Peter Hart. They lost key players. They didn't have the same strength and depth. The Mayo bench was much stronger. Listen, Mayo are primed. They're at a stage now where Cillian O'Connor's their youngest player, 21. Everyone else between the age of 23, 29. They're in a perfect position now. The time is right for them. They're working hard. They're showing all the key components of a successful team. They will be very, very happy tonight. But Tyrone do deserve great credit. They came and they asked questions. It was vintage Tyrone that we saw in the first 10 or 15 minutes.
How would you sum up the Tyrone performance, Phil?
I think the initial 30 minutes, Tyrone's game plan worked perfect. Everybody had talked about Mayo played with great pace, and Tyrone's aim was to try and slow the game down, played at their pace and get in front from early. People said if Tyrone try to chase this game, their lack of scoring power probably will come back to haunt them. And I think that's what happened. You seen they got Mayo's faces early on. Mayo looked at times lost. They didn't know what to do. But as Mayo grew into the games, Kieran said, they got their game plan going. They kicked on just before half-time, and then James Horn got them in at half-time. He sorted everything else after that as well, and they cut out Tyrone's short kickers, which was an easy platform for them. Joe McMahon got on a lot of ball and started a lot of attacks, and once that option was cut down, Tyrone really seemed to struggle.
Right. Well, Kevin, with your Mayo hat on for a moment, were you concerned after 15 minutes that Tyrone had started so well, and having blown Donegal away, Mayo were struggling a bit?
Oh, you'd have to be, because it was a really nervy opening by Mayo and a really high-tempo opening by Tyrone. So when you put the two together, Mayo were, well, I won't say drowning, but by God, they were certainly in the water, in trouble. And I think probably last year, and I suppose if you look back to the Donegal first 10 minutes, that lesson has been digested, and the composure to get yourself out of it. And I think with 15-20 gone, the game started to turn. Not on the scoreboard, mind, that was closer to half-time, but the game turned. And then in the second half, for me, Mayo's athletic power took over, completely. And at the end of the day, you know, they're in their second successive All-Ireland. This time last year they were on the back of lorries or trucks, if that's what they get up on these days, and saying we'll be back. And that's easy said, but they've actually done it now. They've come back exactly to where they wanted to be. So I think in the end, as Kieran alluded to in his piece, they're in a really good position. Right. They've got a big lesson, a big fright, and came through with a lot of composure. They could have won by anything in the end. They won, I think, they won by 6. It could have been 10. It could have been 12.
Okay, well let's go through the game. And as Kieran said, credit to Tyrone. They did start very well, Philip. Take us through that.
Yeah, Tyrone had a great start. People talk about Tyrone playing with a blanket defence, but as you see, Tyrone's game plan has always been putting pressure high up the field. See here, Kevin McLaughlin's coming out, and this is Kieran McGinney, brilliant stuff. Turns the ball over and launches an attack straight away. Tyrone did that constantly in the first 20 minutes of the game, and it put Mayo on the back foot, and they weren't sure what to do at times. And you've seen constantly all over the pitch, Tyrone were putting pressure on them. Again, with Sean Kavanagh getting the tackle in here and turning the ball over. And Mayo seemed to struggle with that. They weren't used to being put under so much pressure. Maybe used previous matches against Donegal, they got time in the ball in their own half of the pitch. And then once they got in the Tyrone half, they were met by the swarm defence. Tyrone 3 or 4 men and start the attack again. And the one thing Tyrone probably impressed me the most about them, one thing they've struggled with all year, has been getting the ball into their full forward line. See here, diagonal pass inside. And Mayo's half backs were following the Tyrone half forwards back into their own defence. And that was leaving space in behind. And Tyrone took full advantage of it. The problem was then, after the first 15-20 minutes, Tyrone set off Mayo a wee bit and invited them onto them. And probably for the next 5 minutes, Mayo got into the ascendancy. They might, as Kevin says, showed it in the scoreboard. But once they got on top, Tyrone struggled really to get that momentum back.
All right, and one of the key points you said, Kieran, was that Mayo didn't fold when that pressure came on.
No, they didn't, and it was the last 5 minutes of the half, and they'd gone 32 minutes without a score from play. And you know, this is a trend of the game. This man beside me has done it many times as well. You know, and Chris Barrett comes forward here and outside of the boot, a great score to lift them, crucial at that stage. And it was followed up by Lee Keegan. You know, got 2 points. His scoring average is very, very high this year. He started that run from midfield and off his left foot, and it was just, you know, there were 7 points to 3 down, and Tyrone had gone in with that cushion. It would have been crucial, but these 3 points in the last 5 minutes were critical in getting them back. And all of a sudden you were left in a half-time situation where there was a point in it, and you felt that Mayo hadn't really played their potential. If you had have said in the first half of the match that none of their starting 6 forwards would have scored from play in that first half, considering they're averaging 26 points a match, you wouldn't have thought that they'd any hope. But going in with a 1-point margin just put them in a nice position coming into the second half.
Those 3 points coming in the last 3 minutes, and then the start of the second half saw a huge turnaround. Yeah,
huge swing, and I know Kevin's going to point out a few issues in relation to the penalty and other stuff, but this was, you know, an 8-point swing in effect, because in this period Mayo scored 1-3, and Vardy with a great score there. Then the penalty came, you know, which is suspect, which we'll look at in more detail, but that gave them all of a sudden, from going in, you know, 4 points down just before half time, they have a 3-point lead. It was followed up Alan Freeman with a free. And then Tyrone had 2 crucial opportunities. You know, one fell to Sean Kavanagh, a simple enough free, which usually Sean put over in his sleep, and he missed that. And it was followed up. Matthew Donnelly had another chance to pick off another score just straight after it. So, you know, in effect, with Mayo racking up 1-3 in an 8-9 minute period, Tyrone missing those 2 frees, it was an 8-point swing. It gave them a cushion. And one of the aspects Tyrone have never had to come from behind. It's similar to Donegal. When they went 5 or 6 points, we've seen them over the last year struggle to get back into games. You know, they like the game to be tight. They like the margin to be tight. They needed the game to be tight with 10-15 minutes to go. And Mayo, as you said, after that period just grew in confidence, and you could see that self-belief just flow back into the play.
We're going to look at that penalty in a moment. But Philip, was the penalty the turning point in your view, or was it more than that?
I think there was a crucial period. The tide had started to turn just before half-time. Yeah. Like, Mayo kicked maybe 4 or 5 wides in a row, kicked a couple short, and Tyrone seemed, as I said earlier, started to sit back and invite Mayo onto them, and that's one thing you don't want to do with this Mayo team, because their half-back line's coming forward, and we're seeing their defence scored 4 points in play, and that's something maybe Tyrone teams in the past had going for them. Their half-backs were getting forward and scoring points, and Mayo took full advantage, and the penalty obviously was a key decision. It changed the game, we'll never know, but certainly it had a big effect.
Okay. You're going to look at this, Kevin. I mean, Mayo certainly did play well, but they got lucky breaks at key times as well. Yeah,
they're a point down at half-time, and they need a few breaks and bounces, and the first one they get is the end of Vardy one. Jimmy O'Shea carries it in, he bounces the ball, he comes out of the traffic and he bounces it again. 2 hops, free out. Instead, the ball flicks into Vardy, and eventually He's going to kick it over the bar with his right foot, which is a superb effort by him, but of course it's a free out.
Yeah.
So now we're level. Mayo are back in it instead of a demoralising turnaround.
Sure.
Young Boyle comes driving through. We get a few views of this, but let me say this first. He was fouled. There is no issue about that. He misses the ball completely in the tackle. Now, is it inside or outside? There's the closest picture we can get, and as you can see, the foul is outside the 13-metre line. It's a 13-metre free, not a penalty. Brilliantly struck by Alan Freeman, because Pascal McConnell goes the right way and he still gets it. Now we're 3 up and looking pretty good. A brilliant rob by Sean Kavanagh. You can see it here again in the slow motion. Rips the ball out beautifully. Textbook, but it's a free in.
And his left hand wasn't on the back.
Oh, not at all. It's a perfect execution, and that's tapped over by Alan Freeman. So the game turns. But they're the bounces and breaks that you know you need.
I think there was 2 critical points on that. That the penalty, you know, we all agree, is very hard. Maurice Deegan has to make that instinctive decision. You know, it was a very marginal call, and that tackle from Sean Kavanagh. Unfortunately, probably the attention that he received over the last few weeks, that could have had a small impact. It was a perfectly executed tackle, but the referee sees him going in from behind, and what we've seen over the last few weeks, they're the little things that the calls can go against.
The bounces and the breaks.
Yeah, I think that's a question people in Tyrone probably will be asking. People in the build-up to the match said how this negative publicity over Tyrone in the last 3 to 4 weeks affect the referee, and I don't know if it affected the result, but I think Tyrone certainly came out the wrong side of the calls. There was one of Joe McMahon's in the first half as well, looked a perfectly good tackle, and that 1-1 right after half-time was a crucial phase of the game.
But Philip, I should say that, you know, after the hullabaloo between Joe Brawley and the Sean Kavanagh tackle, it was a foul, it wasn't a tackle, it was continued by Tyrone and by the management. You know, there was a page of stats produced. It should have been killed on Monday. Yeah, it should this would be my opinion on it. If my team is under pressure, you kill that on Monday. That isn't allowed. That isn't allowed to go on for 2 or 3 weeks and build.
Unfortunately, Kevin, Joe Brawley's on Twitter, so it wouldn't have been killed on Monday afterwards.
Well, what was your view on that, Phil?
I think the feeling within Tyrone was that the tide was so much against them in the media that they felt they had to do something to correct it. Whether giving a fact sheet out in the media night was the correct option, I wouldn't agree with that. I think it was the wrong way to go about it, but I think what Tyrone should have done was release a statement and say that it was considered insulting to the coaches at school, colleges, club, county level, that all the hard work they've done is suddenly now been wasted. Apparently we're teaching people how to foul. Like, I played 11 years for Mickey Hart and never once was a tile to foul. Plenty of times I was told that when I fouled somebody, it was a lazy tackle and it wasn't good. So that's the option. I think that's what Tyrone felt, that they were being victimised a bit as well. And like 5-6 years we go back, everybody says Tyrone's youth system was a template for everybody to copy, and now all of a sudden it's the worst thing ever. So I think the bit of balance in the argument was needed, and maybe Tyrone didn't go the right way about it, but their intentions certainly were correct.
Okay. Getting back to the game, Alan Freeman had a key role to play, it turned out.
Yeah, he was, you know, you looked for leadership, you looked for people to stand up today, and Killian O'Connor obviously got injured, and it was Alan Freeman that stood up to the mark.
Big kick for him.
Yeah, this is a crucial free, just when he went off, and that gave him the confidence to build on it.
Yeah, Kevin.
Yeah, with O'Connor gone off, you know, that free is huge. The goal, no issue whatsoever with this. I heard the whistle well before Alan Freeman cut inside. The foul, you know, whether he was fouled is neither here nor there to a certain extent. The penalty we spoke about, OK, we don't agree it was a penalty, but by God did he put it away. And just his general play, he's a confidence player. I thought today Alan Freeman announced himself as a Croke Park player. He really went around Croke Park today like he knew what was at stake in big championship games. He knew the sort of pressure. Killian O'Connor has gone off, he's the free taker. I showed that last one where he's kicking it wide to say it wasn't the perfect package, but by God, he went a long way towards.
I think when you look at it, with Killian
home.
O'Connor off, Kevin McLaughlin and Andy Moore, and probably performing below par, Vardy didn't make a huge impact. He was the man that stood up in the Mayo forward.
He was excellent.
He came out and, you know, 10 minutes, the first 10 minutes in the second half, we just played like we could and really took over the game.
to be fair to Tyrone, you know, they really put it up to us. We were expecting a massive challenge, and you know, I think they deserve massive credit. Like they've really set the bar in the last 2 years with regard to work rate and professionalism. You know, so. You know, they were a team I suppose we would have looked up to, and I think they deserve a lot of credit as well.
What was it that you decided and said at halftime?
Oh, magic stuff. No, look at it. We were just very poor in the first half. We were too slow moving on the ball. We were running into traffic, taking wrong options, and that sometimes happens when you're just a little bit off, or you're focused a little bit off, or you're thinking about it too much. So we just tried to go back to basics and move the ball on like we can, and you know, we got a couple of run, and Freezers took away the penalty very, very well.
It's a penalty for Mayo. Here's Freeman.
We were lucky we've had a Freeman there, and you know, he was majestic today. I thought he was excellent today, and you know, when one man goes down, someone else stands up, and that's what we did today.
Cillian O'Connor seemed to pick up a knock, and he seems to be holding his shoulder, which caused problems earlier in the season.
It's a great feeling to be there. I suppose it's changed with a bit of sadness with Cillian, but we'll see how he is tonight, and we'll work from there, and fingers crossed he'll be okay.
Well, meeting the doc straight after this, I actually don't know how serious it is, and you know, so he's a problem with his shoulder, so we just have to see.
Maybe the difference between last year and this year, we expected to win, and I'm being disrespectful to Tyrone, but you know, every game we know if we go out and perform, you know, to our level that we'll win it. But there is a different feeling afterwards. You know, we're happy enough with the win, but I suppose not so much with the performance. So there's plenty to work on for the next day, and we'll be identifying areas where we can improve, and we'll be going from there.
Aidan O'Shea mentioned that you already had a pool session scheduled for tomorrow and a couple of other sessions scheduled for during the week. You have been planning ahead long term, obviously, with the All-Ireland final in sight.
Yeah, I think you have to. I think you have to. Every game, like we have a recovery session planned for the Monday morning, and we have our training planned for Wednesday evening. So it's great that it comes off, but if it doesn't come off, like it's just a session miss. But it's no, it's brilliant. It's tomorrow morning, 10 o'clock. We'll be in the pool. Recovery will be done, and we'll move on.
I suppose the reason we were favourites is the Galway game was, you know, we'd been in a couple of national finals, we've been going well the last couple of years, so look, we'd embrace the favourites tag. It's because we're playing well.
Have any of you got jobs?
Yeah, I've got last week of the month, and I'm a salesman, so yeah, it's a tricky one this week. But no, we're okay. The employers are fairly good to us. A lot of the guys work locally, which is great, and I suppose all our employers will enjoy the next 4 weeks as much as we will.
Well, those youngsters will remember their day, there's no doubt about that. Let's talk about Tyrone for a minute, though. Philip, some of the lads have been around a long time, your own contemporaries. Do you think they'll all stay on?
That's difficult to decide. I think obviously Conor Gormley and Pascal McConnell and people like that will have to consider what they're going to do. At the end of the day, they'll take their time over it.
You're not calling for them to consider.
No, definitely not. When Conor was proposed suspension come out last week, I think I said myself, I says if Conor Gormley's not playing, Tyrone don't win this match. So he was that key to the Tyrone team, and
yeah,
it's difficult. Tyrone expectations were fairly low this year. Supporters expected them. If they stayed in Division 1, got to the round quarter final, they'd been pretty happy with the season. They'd seen it as a progression. There was only 6 players today that have started All-Ireland senior finals before, so it's a massive change in the team in the last 9 years. So I think most Tyrone supporters generally are happy with the progress the team made, but I don't think anybody expected them to go much further. I think we've seen that the support today, it was fairly limited, and there wasn't much hype around the county. So I think overall people are happy to see a bit of progress and a new team developing as well, and developing in the right direction.
You were making the point, Kevin, that Tyrone are getting so far, but then there is a gap appearing.
I suppose one of the points is that of those 6 that played in the last final, how many are playing now, they happen to be still their key players, you know, Kavanagh and Gormley and McConnell and so on. I suppose the overall point is that, you know, since Cork in 09, I think Dublin then 10 and 11, Kerry last year down in Killarney, Mayo today. You know, those 4 or 5 big championship games where Tyrone, we're used to seeing Tyrone win those quarterfinals or semi-finals and push on. They haven't been, and they've been decent beatings in, you know, four of those 5 big encounters. So, you know, they're at a crossroads. I know they've won 2 Ulsters in recent enough times, and they have a young team coming through. They need to take stock and look at the next level, because they need to be playing in finals.
Okay, and time for their young lads to come through. Well, we're going to name our man of the match now, and Kieran, you have the nominees.
Yeah, the nominees today, Des, were all from Mayo. The first one was Seamus O'Shea. I suppose the focus was on his brother coming into this match, but he
Big brothers don't like that.
It allowed him perform, and in the third quarter he really took the game to Tyrone. He drove right at the heart of the defence. Alan Freeman, as we've already mentioned, was the leader in the forward line, took his penalty well, had composure when Cillian O'Connor went off, and also Chris Barrett, who kicked 2 fantastic points in that last 5 minutes of the first half that was critical in getting them back in the game.
All right. Not easy to decide.
No, it absolutely wasn't. There was a very close debate over the three of them, but we went in the end for Alan Freeman. I suppose the Achilles heel of Mayo over the many years of suffering has been misfiring forward lines and misfiring forwards. And today we felt Alan Freeman was just outstanding.
All right, then let's hear from our winner then, to the great delight, no doubt, of all our viewers in Ahamore.
When you look at the first half, you did seem to struggle. It took you a long while to get into it, but when you did, you really did.
Yeah, I think so. A lot of that credit will have to go to Tyrone because they tackled hard, they harried, they brought numbers back, they made it very difficult for us. They brought a bigger intensity to the game than we did for that period, but thankfully we weathered that and we got our bit of space and scores later on in the game.
Yeah, particularly you, Alan Freeman, so that's why you're the Ulster Bank or team man of the match. Congratulations. Kieran Doherty from Ulster Bank is here to present you with your award.
Thank you. Congratulations, Alan. Thanks,
In case you don't know, Ahamore is beside Knock Airport, and they're all in Ballyhaunis, I'm told by Kevin tonight. Anyway, congratulations to Alan and indeed the rest of the Mayo squad. Well, still.
Acclaimed album Love Has Come For You are Steve Martin, Edie Brickell, and the Steep Canyon Rangers.
When you get to Asheville, send me an email. Tell me how you're doing, how it's treating you. Did you find a new job? Did you find a new love? Is it everything that you were dreaming of? Ooh, if it don't work out. Ooh, if it don't work out. Ooh, you can turn around and come on back to me. You can come on home to me. Everything's the same here. We had to sew up Goldie's ear. She must have gotten to a fight somewhere in the night. She won't sleep in the house now. She just listens for the sound of your old 84 Ford coming down the road. Ooh, if it don't work out. Ooh, if it don't work out. Ooh, you can turn around and come on back to me.